So hurricane force winds are going to be most likely in here. That's the new center line, taking it right up through St. Mary Parish and up through the river parishes. And I still want to say that there are several of our high-resolution models that bring this storm further into Terrebonne Parish with the core closer to the city of New Orleans and up through the North Shore. That would bring a bigger wind impact to the metro area. So this latest update does bring stronger winds across our area. Let me show you one of our high-resolution models that is showing that scenario very similar to what the Hurricane Center is forecasting. Here we go tomorrow, or rather this evening and into tonight, we still just have passing showers. There is a tornado risk with all this. We'll be here tracking that risk through tonight with some of these outer bands. Here we are at 3 a.m., some heavy tropical rains moving in, and then once we get into tomorrow morning, tropical storm conditions moving into the coastal areas fairly early on, and then tropical storm conditions approaching the metro once we get into the early afternoon. So this model has the center coming on shore right around St. Mary Parish, maybe into Terrebonne Parish. This would bring the core of those winds over the area. Very heavy rain on the north side of the storm, very dry on the back side of the storm. Now, while it's dry on the back side of the storm, we still think there's going to be some fairly impressive wind gusts, even if it's not raining. So one of those weird lopsided systems that comes in, but it's got winds wrapping all the way around it. By tomorrow night, it's moving on out. So once again, we're watching this storm to see how it intensifies today. How quickly it intensifies today will determine how strong it is once it gets to our coast. So the wind shear and dry air today are not a huge factor. It's running over warm Gulf waters. We think it's under fairly decent conditions to intensify all day and even into tonight. That's why we think it could make a run at a Category 2 storm. Now, once it gets close to our coast, watch the intensity as these winds start to come down because of wind shear and dry air. And so as that storm sweeps over the area, yes, it's still packing a very, very heavy punch with strong winds. Hopefully it is weakening. I want to slow this down and give you a very detailed look at some of these wind gusts. So here we are tomorrow afternoon. The storm begins to make landfall. This is pretty in line with what the Hurricane Center is saying right now. You can see there winds, hurricane force right off the coast. This is at 1 to 2 o'clock. This is when conditions will probably be at their worst in Terrebonne. And this has the storm coming in more into Terrebonne Parish. So winds will start to be gusty in the early afternoon. The worst winds will be moving in during the afternoon hours and into your evening. Now this shows you a scenario where the core of this hurricane coming in around Terrebonne as a Category 1, strong Category 1 at that. We could have those wind gusts approaching 90 miles an hour for areas around Houma, maybe in Grand Isle. And if this plays out, you have that core right over the city of New Orleans, bringing in those winds gusting. You can see there's that potential for 50 to 70 mile per hour winds across the New Orleans metro by Wednesday afternoon into Wednesday evening. And then once again, it's moving on out fairly quickly. Now, this specific model is a little bit further to the east than some of the others. Either way, though, I do see a scenario where we see that core winds traveling over the area, whether it's New Orleans or the river parishes, or maybe closer up to the North Shore. We've got to wait and see how this plays out and how it exactly approaches the coast. But it shows you that this trend brings in a bigger wind problem for our area, meaning more power outages. And a 70-mile-an-hour wind is going to cause power outages. Now, this is not an Ida. I know a lot of people down in the bayou parishes are getting a little nervous with this. I do hope you're taking it serious, but this is not 150 to 200-mile-an-hour winds. It is far, far off from that. With that being said, we are likely going to see power outages. If you are in a trailer, I know some people are still recovering from Ida in a FEMA trailer. Maybe you're in temporary housing. You don't want to stay in those for this storm. These types of winds will roll those things, and it's very, very dangerous. So find somewhere else to be. Hopefully there's some shelters you can go to if you need to. Now, one of the upgrades, we do have storm surge warnings now for the entire area. This includes around the lake. This includes our entire coast and over into South Mississippi. Updating our storm surge numbers, really the only change we're seeing with these are 3 to 5 feet now for coastal Mississippi into eastern St. Bernard Parish. We're expecting 3 to 5 feet in the lake, especially for parts of the North Shore. And then you can see Barataria Bay still hanging on to 4 to 7 feet. 5 to 10 feet, though, into Terrebonne Bay. And so our biggest storm surge problems are likely going to be right here near Morgan City, into St. Mary Parish, where the Atchafalaya dumps into the Gulf, also down into Terrebonne Bay. Cocodrie Chauvin could see 5 to 10 feet of inundation, and Grand Isle and up into Lafitte, 4 to 7 feet. I was just talking to our Meg Ferris, and we were talking about the mayor of Lafitte, talking about how everything is so saturated and we have so much water left over from last week's rainfall that the water is already elevated. And so this is only going to exacerbate the problem with more water coming in. So a big concern down there. Please be taking this seriously in Lafitte. I know it says only a Category 1, but 7 feet of inundation is a possibility, and that is something we want you to take seriously. So that's what we're looking at with storm surge. Now this is something interesting. This is our latest high resolution model that just came in, and it is showing a corridor, and it's been showing this for several model runs, so this has got our attention. There is likely going to be a core of very, very prolonged heavy tropical rains. It's not going to take up much real estate, but where that core of that storm moves over, we will likely see 8 to 12 inches of rain. If you were watching earlier this morning, we have that corridor closer to Baton Rouge and down through Morgan City because it had the storm coming in a little further to the west. Now that it has the storm coming in more right here, we could see that axis of very heavy rain over parts of southeast Louisiana. So a very close call with not a whole lot of rain and a lot of rain. So there is that flood potential that we will need to keep a very close eye on. And with all that wrapped in a bow, there is a tornado risk. It's a landfalling system, some dry air is wrapping into it. Wouldn't be shocking to see a couple of tornadoes form with this tropical system approaching our area. So if you are just joining us, I want to do a really quick recap, just show you the cone with the latest track before we get back to Brandon, and we've got some reporters out in the field getting you prepared for this as well. The impacts are mostly felt tomorrow, but we do have rain today. The impact will be mostly during the afternoon on Wednesday for New Orleans and the North Shore. It will start in the morning hours down here on the South Shore and along the coast. That's where we're expecting the winds to pick up faster. Could be a Category 2 at landfall. There's the center moving into parts of our area and then sweeping over us as we go in through the afternoon. And luckily it is moving, so we'll have it out of here by late Wednesday night and probably more so out of here by early Thursday. That is the latest as of 10 o'clock, Brandon.
All right, Peyton, thank you for breaking